Well, buckle your seatbelts. That's all I can say. He's in the house. I'm talking about Bill Gallagher. And no, he's a great friend. And we love this guy. And he does a great work around the Valley. And he's not only a personal counselor, he's a teacher, educator, but he also works with companies and office dynamics, I guess we could call that, right, Bill?
One way to look at it. Yeah, sure.
And I was kidding around with Steve and Paulina today, and I said, Bill's coming in, we're talking about different personalities in the office place, and they just both clammed up.
Oh, no. Oh, here we go.
So anyway, I can tell you, managing people for, wow, 40 years, it's just not easy.
It's not easy, and we're a little bit more complex than we want to accept sometimes.
You know, I get these HR manuals from these various companies and what the laws of what you can and can't do. You add to the fact that we are nonprofit, and you add over the top of that the FCC is watching us, so our HR manuals get very complicated and overlap, what you can and can't say and do. And you try to hire somebody in that environment or fire somebody in that environment, I'd just soon go have a root canal.
I tell you what, and I do a lot with local government, and of course, at least below management, most are in unions, and that can be a nightmare.
Oh, man. So anyway, I don't know of a workplace, I don't care what the environment is, there's an elephant in the room. There's something in there that kind of stops people from being transparent.
Yes.
Or shuts them down.
Yep.
And the manager's got to figure out, well, you know, what bee's under your bonnet today, you know?
Well, yeah, I just sent a recent article. I have email newsletters that go out once a month, Perry, for free, of course. And my last one was dealing with the elephant in the room. I would say almost every household, almost every workplace office has an elephant in the room.
Really?
An elephant in the room, just by way of word picture, of course, an elephant represents a very, very large and heavy problem. In the middle of the room suggests that it's so obvious that everyone can see it, but the key is people in a particular office culture learn how to avoid dealing with the problem, and they walk around the issue, much as can be said for the home, many, many homes.
Oh, well, this provokes a lot of questions.
Yes, sir.
Can the elephant just get up and leave on its own?
They never leave on their own.
So even if you put peanuts outside the door?
They never leave on their own. And the other fact I can give about elephants is baby elephants grow up and they get bigger. So if a problem is avoided and not dealt with, I promise you, it will grow and get bigger with time, and they never leave on their own.
Okay, so what makes them go away?
Well, first of all, it takes a little bit of courage from someone. Now, if you talk about the workplace, I think we need to talk about risk and courage. It takes guts for an individual to actually address the problem that everybody sees and knows but says nothing about. So first of all, it takes risk and courage, and frequently what I find, Perry, in the office is that when a new administrator or a new staff member comes in, they come in with fresh eyes. And so they see it quicker. Frequently, if there's a change of the old guard, a new strong leader deals with the elephant within a year. But for those that don't have new administration, somebody needs the courage and the willingness to take a risk to actually put words to what everyone is thinking and feeling anyway.
Okay. Now, how do you define whether or not it's the individual's interpretation, or is that person, if they came to you, let's say one of my staff members came to me and sat down and said, Perry, whatever, I'd have to discern, is that their opinion or is that really everybody's opinion?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a couple of things to look at. First of all, the nature of the concerned party. Are they chronic complainers? Is there generally something wrong with the place? And then, you know, I mean, that's just, you kind of weed out criticism by knowing the source. But I would say a good, safe way to determine that there, in fact, is an elephant is by numbers. So if you're hearing consistent concerns from several people that don't normally complain, you got an elephant in the room.
Okay. Are there some common unspoken or unaddressed elephant issues in an office? Are there
very, very much so. I mean, Perry, it can go from everything, which would be, of course, the first one would be extreme. The director, the boss, the CEO, the manager having a relationship with one of the employees or an affair that everybody knows about but won't say anything.
Wow.
To what I call that one employee that controls the entire emotional climate of the office. If they come in with a bad attitude, everybody feels it all day. If they're in a good mood, it's a great day. Doesn't seem like it should be that way, my friend.
Yeah. Everybody's tiptoeing around that person.
That's right. To the office pet. Now I do a lot in healthcare too, so here's a physician who has his favorite RN or medical assistant he's had this one for years, and they work together very, very well. But with staff members, very difficult person to get along with, but they can't do anything because that's the doctor's pet. So, I mean, there's just a variety of elephants. So by definition, an elephant is a large problem that is purposely being avoided.
All right. Now, I want to give encouragement to those who recognize the elephant in the room. Can we walk them through what they can do to go to their superior and deal with it? I mean, this is risky because you may be putting your own job on the line.
Absolutely.
Now, we're, as far as I know, we're still a hire at will state, so we can, if I didn't like you for telling me that the elephant in the room was my management style, I don't need you, bye.
Yeah, and that is very complicated. You know, how does an employee go to a supervisor and point out a problem?
Or do they should create a coalition, come as a group?
I think if they can do it in a very constructive, positive way, if the coalition is made up of very loyal, dedicated workers that love the organization, that are mature and have a good approach, they like their supervisor. If there could be a coalition, I wouldn't put anything in writing, but if there's a coalition that can talk to the supervisor or bring the concern, I think it starts with taking action. Another thing that I've seen in offices is one of the reasons that there's an elephant in the room is because their employee manual is outdated, or their employee manual is not being enforced. And what good is it to have rules for behavior if the breaking of the rules is not enforced? What I like to say is a boundary without a consequence is only a suggestion. So is this an employee manual for management and employees in terms of how they should behave in the office, or are these only suggestions? So that's one thing they can do. They can bring a little coalition to the supervisor in a very wise, supportive way. They can suggest that they update their manual and address those kind of behaviors. I recommend that they talk to the right people. Sometimes venting to another coworker around the cooler is not the right people, especially if they can't do anything to change the situation. So going to the appropriate person that will listen and maybe take steps, that's another thing that they can do. In some cases, I appreciate your words of wanting to encourage those that see it and they feel their hands are untied. I feel that in some cases, especially if the elephant in the room is their boss or issues with their boss, they can either move on where there's not an elephant in another career, or they can just learn to deal with it and be the best employee they can be.
All right. I've also learned in this area a little bit, elephants are created because the company has outgrown the current management style.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The company has become so active and grown that this management or this business model didn't move with the growth, and therefore it's created all this friction because you got this group over here that has taken it to this level, and they can't work in this structure.
Yeah, it sounds like a pastor. I mean, it's totally different to pastor a church of 100 and 1,000. Everything changes.
Yeah.
Right. So same with the company, and the old guard can be stuck in the old way and culture, and then nothing really gets done. That's why I say frequently, if a previous administrator leaves and new ones come in, they come in with fresh eyes and they're more willing to take risk, oftentimes.
All right. Now, if it becomes to the point where this becomes the issue every day, you're walking into an atmosphere and the cloud is always there, the elephant's always in the room, and it's impeding your ability to perform your duties. Don't you have a moral responsibility to yourself to clear the air?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would think so.
So you got to go to your supervisor and in a controlled way.
Yes.
And put it on the table.
Yeah, because usually when there's an elephant in the middle of the office or the home, they adapt to a culture of silence. Yeah. Nobody talks about it. Right. And so I think one of the first steps that someone can do for themselves morally is break the sound barrier and put some words to it. To the right people, absolutely. And if it doesn't change, then you just have to weigh out the options. Does the Lord want you to stay there and be the best you can be? Is it time to move on? The Lord will provide if you make that decision. You know.
Do you think we Christians mismanage this because we think, oh well, we'll just pray about it?
Yeah, I think sometimes we hide under the servanthood of Jesus and turn the other cheek, and we're very confused about what that even means when the Lord actually wants us to be more courageous and speak up in an appropriate, godly manner.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, maybe the elephant in the room is personality clashes.
Well, that has a lot to do with it.
Okay, because you're weird and I'm more weird, and so we still get along though.
Well, I'm glad you put it that way.
All right, we'll be right back with Bill Gallagher. Okay, we are having some good discussions here with Bill Gallagher, and he heads up TeamWorks. And Bill is a counselor, and he's a family counselor. He also is on staff part-time at Trail. You do some counseling out there, pastoral counseling. And he also is a business consultant. He'll come into your business, kind of assess the personalities and the dynamics, and we'll do things like that. You do it a lot with the county, the city, the state, in the medical community. So, by the way, let me encourage you. What we're talking about today is the elephant in the room, dealing with the elephant in the room. This is on really a fantastic resource. His newsletters are worth every second of reading. So go to teamwork-works. So you got teamworks-works.com, and you can download his emails and his newsletters free. And get this one, especially, I don't care what you manage, how big your staff is, whether you're a pastor of a big church, small church, big business, small business, read this one.
Yeah, it's very applicable, Perry.
Yeah, and if you need Bill to come in, you can contact him through the website and do a little work with you, because we're living in so many things are changing, and the dynamics and the pressure in life, and man, it's just crazy out there. So
what's interesting too, Perry, is people are people.
Yeah,
we're all the same.
Yeah,
and so the refreshing thing for me is, I work with police and fire and the healthcare and planning and building and whatever, and I don't know all the technical stuff that these people know, but it doesn't matter. People are people, no matter where you go.
All right. Now, part of the workplace elephant could be just personality clashes.
Absolutely.
And it could even start at the top.
Yes.
How do we assess that? How do we look into that?
Well, of course, I do training. You can go online and get some personality. I have a resource to order this particular profile that you have, Perry.
This one here?
Yeah, this has been authored by Florence Lidauer. She goes back 40 years with Tim LaHaye.
Yeah.
So there are resources to be able to assess. What I do is when I go into an organization, I have all of the staff take this first before I arrive, and then I have a 3-hour discussion and presentation on the strengths and weaknesses of the 4 different personalities, what the strengths and weaknesses are when 2 of them that are opposite work with each other, different ways to communicate, different ways to show respect. So probably one of the best ways is to do a training or go online and order your own resources to assess each player in the department. It is huge. I've had large organizations say that the personality training changed the culture of our business.
Really?
Completely.
Well, because then you understand who's in the cubicle next to you.
Yeah, that's right. And what a lot of people do, Perry, is, okay, let's say here's a kind of a type A. I call them reds. We talk about the 4 colors. So you may know something about that. I'm not sure. Anyhow, anywho.
What am I? Am I white or yellow? What am I?
So here's a strong red, type A. that is pretty black and white in their thinking, no nonsense. They arrive early, they leave late, and you know, they don't usually have a lot of fluff and discussions generally, and they just are very clear and directive. Well, they got the sensitive employee that, you know, doesn't like to be cut off because they want to give all the details of what they're saying, and they want to be encouraged and nurtured. And you know, this more sensitive employee thinks that the red doesn't like them. 90% of the time they're wrong. The Reds never even considered it. But it's because they're so strong and they're so bottom line and black and white, see? So a lot of personalities in offices over-personalize directions. It hurts their feelings when it doesn't have to. So I encourage the more sensitive employees not to over-personalize everything that's being said. And then I encourage the stronger ones to, you know, take it down a couple of notches. And if they have the time to focus briefly on, let me just tell you this one story. It's one of the best illustrations I have for a strong red. Years ago, I did a workshop for Rogue Federal Credit Union, and at that time, Tim Alford was the president. He had 20 of his branch managers and managers around the table, and he said something so profound. I thought, boy, if every leader would have this attitude, no wonder his staff loved him so much. He said, let me tell you how I process information as a red being type A. If I'm going from office A to office B, I'm on a track like a train. I have a goal. The goal is office B. And if you come up to me and want to share with me how your feelings are hurt by the person in the cubicle next to you, you're going to lose me in about 3 seconds. Don't take it personal, he said. It's how I process information. He said, it has nothing to do, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It's just I'm on my track. Now, if you want to get the best out of me as a red, he said, make an appointment with me later in the day when I'm not on my track. 15 minutes. I'll give you my undivided attention. I'll turn off all the phones. No, it'll just be you and I. But if you go over 15 minutes, and by the way, reds know when you're going over. They don't even have to look at a watch. They know when you're going over. He goes, you'll lose me again in about a minute. He said, don't take it personal. It has nothing to do with how I feel about you. It's how I process information. Most profound thing I've ever heard a leader say.
Well, he had himself figured out.
Yeah.
And that is an incredible virtue, because a lot of the problems in an office, personality conflicts, is because we are trying to make that other person be like us.
We do that in marriage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm going, well, no, you know, that doesn't work. And so then they draw, a wall comes up.
Well, and then even as believers, we have a very low tolerance for people that are not like us. So we can get pretty judgmental at people that have a different work ethic. It's our way or the highway. And so this also helps people to not be as judgmental, to be, imagine this, a little more understanding of people that are not like you, because there's more than one way sometimes to achieve a goal.
Yeah. So are there red, yellows, whites, greens that just don't mix at all? Stay away from them?
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that if you understand personality differences, there's not a bad blend. Let's just say that, because we don't want to give anybody a heartless sense here. There are colors that seem to connect a little bit better. The greens and the reds are more linear and logical and practical. So if it makes sense on paper to them, then it makes sense. They don't do drama. Greens and reds, if I'm doing a workshop in an organization, the greens and the reds actually say the same thing. When you ask a green or a red, how do you want to be treated here? How do you want to be treated here, now that we know that you're a red or a green? They almost all say the same thing. Don't get overly emotional with me. Stop the drama. And I go, why? Why is that so difficult for you? They say, because if you come to me with a problem, that's one thing. But if you get emotional with the problem, now I have 2 problems. And then you're not going to like my response, and now we have 3 problems. We've gone from 1 problem to 3 in seconds. So he said, if you want to get the best out of me, be practical, maybe have it in print, bullets, 1 page only. Most reds, I've never met a red that read a 5-page letter word for word. They just skim it. So they say, so reds and greens are very practical, linear. They seem to connect well. Blues and yellows are more relational. I'm a yellow. They're more relational, so relationships and feelings in the organization are very important. Feelings. But greens and reds just want production, and you know, it's just got to make the bottom line is all that they care about.
Well, I don't know what color I am. You say I'm a red, but I think I got a lot of yellow in me. But the problem I have, I can handle everything but tears.
Well, that would be your red. You're a red for show. But you know what?
You can bring anger, you can bring everything else. Just don't bring tears. I can't handle tears. You know?
Yellow is your salvation. If you were fire engine red, you would be intolerable. So the yellow is the fun, it's the recreation, it's the laughter.
Yeah.
It's a good balance, actually. Actually, a yellow-red mix, generally they're entrepreneurs because they have a good balance of vision and direction and decisions, but they also enjoy people.
Yeah,
it's a good blend,
actually. I would say that's me, but
under most cases.
Yeah, well, you know, but you know, I think there's a part of this. There's a spiritual stewardship responsibility, whether it's in the workplace or in the marriage or in the church environment, whether you're on staff, and that is, hey, deal with the elephant in the room. Are we really being Christians if we let this elephant exist?
Yeah, I got an email not long ago, Perry. It's what gave me the idea for this particular newsletter, and it went something like this. She wanted to know, you know, what it would take to bring me in. But then she basically said, we have very strong personalities in our office, and no one wants to seem to deal with the elephant in the room.
Okay, which is everybody.
Which is everybody. Yeah. And one of the common problems that I deal with is you have a more passive supervisor with 4 strong reds under them.
Oh, my stars.
It's a nightmare because the reds don't respect the passivity, and the green, I'm going to call the green the passive one, is over their head, and they have these intense people to deal with, so it's so important to understand who the players are.
Can a red be a good pastor?
Absolutely. Won't be a touchy-feely pastor, won't be a very relational pastor, might be a great preacher, but won't, if they don't have a strong yellow like you do or something more relational going on, they may be great in the pulpit, but then you can't find them afterward as much. That can be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me just encourage you a couple things here, folks. It's called TeamWorks. That's the name of Bill's company that does this. And you can go to teamworks-works.com. That's his website. And sign up for his newsletter, and especially this last one dealing with the elephant in the room. It kind of summarizes everything we want. If you are running a company, no matter what the size is, let me encourage you to get a hold of Bill and have him come in and do, it's about 3 hours, right?
Yeah, well, I can adjust, but my general modules are 3 hours.
I would think it would be the best investment you can make into your company. They'll take this little test, and then he'll come in and hold the seminar. And what it's really about is creating an environment that's productive.
Absolutely, where people understand one another. There's not a whole lot of infighting. They don't over-personalize things anymore. They're actually willing to change their approach based on who they're dealing with at the time. That's a novel thought.
Oh, there you go.
I run into some people that go, that's just the way I am. Deal with it. Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you know, you want to have a loving atmosphere and a fun atmosphere, because I have found out I do everything over food. I think food is a great neutralizer.
It's breaking bread. It's biblical.
Throw food on the table and everybody gets along.
Most men like that idea.
Thanks, Bill. Again, it's called teamworks-works.com, and get that newsletter and sign up for the rest of them. Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Thanks, Perry.
All right,
Great to be here.
We'll see you next time.